Hi, I'm Ben from Moco Toolbox. In this video, I'll talk about the motion control kit that I've designed and built for stop motion and simple live action videos. First, I'll explain what this kit is and what each device is for, and then I'll explain why I actually started designing this kit and what was the purpose behind it. And then I will show you what are the features and how I built this and how it can help you in your stop motion or simple live action video production. This kit is basically designed for stop motion animators and video creators who use Dragonframe. Dragonframe has this built-in motion control environment called Arc Motion Control. To be able to use this environment for programming and controlling motorized rigs and stepper motors, you'll need an interface device which connects to your computer via a USB port on one side and connects to the stepper motors on the other side. And this interface allows you to run the stepper motors according to the program motion on Dragonframe. The first device in the kit is the interface for Dragonframe. It's a powered controller that lets you run up to 3 stepper motors according to the motion that you've programmed on Dragonframe. It has its built-in stepper motor driver, so you don't need separate drivers for your stepper motors. The second device is a rig that you can attach to the powered controller, so you get the physical movement that you program in Dragonframe. All the animators use winder rigs all the time for moving puppets or objects on their stop motion set. So this is a version of an XY winder rig which has 2 stepper motors and an extra stepper motor that can be attached to one of the axes according to what you want to get. I'll explain more about all the details later in the video. When I started designing this, there was something in my mind that I always liked motion control rig to have. And that was something according to this fact that motion control devices become totally useless when you don't want to use motion control. I mean, you have this fancy, kind of maybe expensive devices sitting somewhere in your studio, but you cannot use them any other way than to program a movement and have the device move something for you. So I was always thinking that there should be some way to let you use your motorized rigs in a sort of manual way as well. That's the reason I started designing this third device. This third device lets you use your motorized rig like a manual rig. Let me show you how. It simply lets you use this tangible press buttons to move the rig up and down, left and right, to move the third motor in any direction that you want and in any speed that you like. So actually you can attach something to this rig and move it little by little manually, exactly like a manual winder rig. And that's why I call this a manual controller. But there is something extra to it. When I was designing this, I thought that the same hardware would be capable of moving all 3 stepper motors sync together for some simple live action videos. I started adding an LCD display to it to be able to program a simple live action move, meaning that you can manually move each of the axes to one position and set that position as position A, and then manually move all the axes to another position and set that new position as position B. And then when you set a speed and hit the run button, all 3 motors will move from position A to position B, sync together according to the overall speed that you've set. If you'd like to use motion control in your production, so far there are 2 main approaches. One is using professionally manufactured motion control devices. Most of those devices are built for motion control on the camera side. And as you know, one of the most powerful part of using motion control in a stop motion is to attach objects to the motion control device. So if you want to buy something professionally manufactured, you can find different turntables or camera sliders, but there are not many customizable rigs that you can attach in different ways to the objects on the set. On the other hand, another approach for using motion control is to build your own devices. So DIY motion control is a big thing in the industry, and a lot of very professional people build their own controllers or their own rigs, whether it's for the camera or on the object side. But any of those need at least some basic knowledge of electronics and mechanics to be able to build something that you need. So after years of working in motion control field and using motion control in a lot of projects, I figured out that there is a big gap between the professionally manufactured, ready-to-use devices and the DIY devices, whether they are like simple DIY or something like DMC32, which is very professional. Between these two, there is a gap for those who want to use motion control in a very creative way, but for some reason they don't want to engage in learning all the mechanics and electronics that are needed for doing this DIY stuff. They want something to be more customizable, to be more like DIY friendly, to be able to modify different attachments or design your own rigs for that. So this was the main idea that I started building this kit. I wanted to make something that is ready to be used. So if you like to start using motion control with Dragonframe, you can just get this device, connect it to Dragonframe, connect the stepper motors to it, and it's ready to run. It has all the hardware inside, it has everything you need. Or if you like to be able to start with a nice rig that has a lot of different uses, but you don't want to start like building something from scratch yourself, this is absolutely the most useful rig that I can think of in motion control world on the object side. As I said, this third device is something unique as well. So this was the whole idea. In the next part of this video, I will show more features and more details, and I'll explain how I believe that it is a very reliable and useful kit. Now let me explain what are the features of these devices and how I say that these are very DIY friendly for the people who like to be more creative with the stuff that they have. First feature is compatibility, or being able to use this device with any other devices or anything else. It's very important along the workflow to have devices that are compatible together. Like when you buy a camera, you want all your lenses to be compatible with that camera. And when you want to buy a second camera, probably you think that, should I buy the same brand, or how I can be able to use the lenses that I already have as well with my second camera. So you like everything to be compatible with each other in your studio. And it's the same thing about your motion control devices. With most of the manufactured devices, you have to stay in that product brand ecosystem. Connections could be the main example. The connections that one brand use might be different than the connections that the other brand use for their stuff. And the thing is, if you are a DIY person and you want to buy a stepper motor from Amazon and start building a rig for doing something, the stepper motor doesn't come with the sort of connection that is compatible with a manufactured device that you already have. Maybe they use a fancy XLR connection, but a stepper motor comes with like a simple 4-pin connector. So I thought I should make something that give people this ability to get parts and stuff from everywhere and start building their own thing, but still could be able to use these devices with those. So for the connections, I designed this PCB that you can attach the very basic 4-pin stepper motor connections to it, but to give you a clean connection between the devices that I offer with the kit, I have this RJ45 connector for connection between the winder rig and this device. So the same thing with the winder rig. I've used this standard 2020 aluminum extrusion bars for the main structure, so you can easily find tons of different attachments for this, or you can easily design something 3D print. Imagine you want to attach a puppet to this, a can of soda, You want to attach a phone to it and move your phone, or anything that you can think of. I also offer vertical and horizontal base for the rig. So according to what you want to animate, you can use this vertically or horizontally. Or maybe you can hang it from top and attach everything underneath, or you can have it on the surface and everything's moving above it. Both of these controllers are powered controllers. It means that they have built-in stepper motor drivers. They get the power from a power supply and provide the motor the pulses that they need. And according to the DIY mindset that I had when designing this, I put this magnet windows on the top so you can easily access the stepper motor drivers for two purposes. First, to adjust the currents according to the stepper motor that you're using. The second reason I've put this window is that there's always a chance that one of these drivers gets damaged. So you can easily replace it with a new one without being worried about like opening the whole box, messing around with anything. I should mention that I've used high precision TMC drivers, so the motors run so smooth and very quiet. Next thing is the build quality. I wanted to make sure that these are the devices that you can use for several hours without being worried about something going wrong or the motors get hot. So first off, I've designed these two custom built PCBs. So we have nice, clean, solid connections to avoid messy wiring between different boards and parts. Also, for example, we have a cooling fan to make sure that the drivers work in their best condition. And last but not the least would be ease of use. I wanted to make sure that this kit could be useful for both beginners and professionals. So both beginners and professionals in animating and beginners and professionals in using motion control in their stop motion process could find this easy and efficient to use. This kit comes with a nice panel design. For some reason, from my school years, when I made an electronic kit, a small radio or a flashing light, I like to make a kind of box or enclosure for it to make it look like a commercially manufactured device. I don't know exactly why I always like to do that, but now with 3D printing and laser cutting and CNC and everything, I found this chance to make my creations look like they are built in a factory, even though that's at least on this kit, it's like a smaller production line. I've tried to design it in the most simple way. On the manual rig, I have 6 tangible push buttons. Each two is for 2 directions of each stepper motor. So it's like playing a video game. You have each button for any action. I found it so hard using nested menus on LCDs. That is very common in like motion control devices. You want to move something or change the speed, you should select a menu item and select a sub menu and then change something and press OK, so it kind of saves that value, and then you go back one menu item to some other thing. I wanted this manual controller to be very easy to use. You can easily use these push buttons to move the rig in any direction, and also you have a manual speed knob to change the speed from 1 to 10 according to what you are doing. Also, there is a very easy way to set the start-stop point for the synced motion. Also, I've added an IR remote controller for the manual control, so you don't have to be very close to the controller. Maybe you have the controller on one side of the setup and you are standing on the other side, so you can easily use the remote control to move the rig in small steps or larger steps and adjust whatever you are animating on that frame. Or you can run the synced move when you're away from the whole setup. Maybe you're controlling the camera, and when it's time to run the movements, you can hit the run button on the remote controller and you get the programmed move. I'll put the website link in the description if you'd like to take a look at the features or you want to order one for yourself. Please subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. I will post more examples of how I use this kit in real life projects. And also I will post a lot of more interesting stuff about motion control and the DIY devices and rigs that I make. Thank you for watching and see you next time.